I begged him never to stop. A true infidelity story of forbidden love. This is my story. I am Elsa Weber, now 70 years old, living in a small, peaceful town. I never imagined I'd be sharing my most private moments, but my heart insists this tale must be told. It's a story of forbidden love, betrayal, and the complexities of the human spirit. This is not just a story. It's my truth, a life I never thought I would live. A quiet life. For 50 years, I was the devoted wife of Friedrich Weber. Together, we raised 3 wonderful children, built a home filled with memories, and grew old side by side. But life had become stagnant. Friedrich was a good man, but time had changed us. Our once fiery romance had settled into a quiet companionship, leaving me longing for something I couldn't name. As I approached my 70s, I resigned myself to a life of predictability. My days revolved around tending to my garden, cooking meals, and occasionally visiting the local market. Life was peaceful, but it was also empty. I buried my loneliness under layers of routine, until Lucas entered my life. Meeting Lucas. It was a sunny afternoon when my son, Victor, arrived for a visit. Alongside him was his friend, Lucas Hartmann. Lucas was 26, a charming, lively young man who lit up the room with his energy. He was polite, attentive, and seemed genuinely interested in the world around him. From the moment we met, I felt an unexplainable connection to Lucas. His laugh reminded me of the vitality I had lost, and his presence filled the house with warmth. I told myself it was harmless, that I simply enjoyed his company. But deep down, I knew it was more than that. A forbidden friendship. Lucas stayed with us for the summer, helping Victor with a project. He often joined me in the garden, asking questions about the flowers and sharing stories about his life. He listened when I spoke, really listened, in a way that Friedrich hadn't in years. One evening, as we sat on the porch watching the sunset, Lucas turned to me. "You're remarkable, Mrs. Weber," he said, his voice sincere. "You have so much wisdom and grace." I laughed nervously, brushing off the compliment. But his words stayed with me, igniting a spark I couldn't ignore. For the first time in decades, I felt alive. The first touch. The night it all began was a stormy one. Victor and Friedrich had gone out, leaving Lucas and me alone. As the rain pounded against the windows, the power went out. We lit candles and sat together in the dim light, talking about life, dreams, and regrets. At one point, Lucas reached for my hand. "Elsa," he said softly, "I feel like I've known you forever." I froze, torn between my longing and my sense of morality. "Lucas, this is wrong," I whispered, pulling my hand away. But the look in his eyes spoke volumes. He understood me in a way no one else ever had. Crossing the line. Despite my efforts to resist, the pull between us grew stronger. We shared stolen glances, lingering touches, and whispered conversations. I felt guilty, terribly so, but I couldn't stop myself. Lucas made me feel young again, alive in a way I hadn't been in years. One afternoon, while Victor and Friedrich were away, Lucas kissed me. It was gentle, hesitant, and filled with emotion. I should have pushed him away, but I didn't. That kiss was the beginning of something I couldn't undo. The secret affair. Lucas and I became lovers, meeting in secret whenever we could. Each moment together was both exhilarating and terrifying. I knew the risks, the betrayal I was committing, but I couldn't let him go. For the first time in decades, I felt truly loved, not for my role as a wife or a mother, but for who I was. Guilt consumed me. Every time I looked at Friedrich, I felt like a monster. He had been my partner for 50 years, the father of my children. He didn't deserve this. But the thought of losing Lucas was unbearable. I began to question everything: my marriage, my choices, my morality. Was I selfish for wanting happiness? Or was I simply human? These questions haunted me day and night. It was inevitable that our secret would come to light. One evening, Victor walked in on Lucas and me sharing an intimate moment. The look of betrayal on his face shattered me. He confronted me, his voice filled with anger and disappointment. "Mom, how could you? Dad doesn't deserve this." I had no words, only tears. Victor stormed out, leaving me to face the consequences of my actions. Victor told Friedrich everything. My husband, the man I had shared my life with, looked at me as though he didn't recognize me. "Why, Elsa?" he asked, his voice breaking. "Wasn't I enough?" I tried to explain, but there was no justification for what I had done. Friedrich moved out, and Victor cut off contact. My family was shattered, and I had no one to blame but myself. Lucas and I knew our relationship couldn't last. The age gap, the family dynamics, it was all too much. We parted ways, both of us heartbroken. He told me he would always love me, and I believed him. But love wasn't enough to mend the damage we had caused. Now, years later, I look back on that summer with a mixture of regret and gratitude. I hurt the people I loved most, and for that, I will never forgive myself. But Lucas taught me something invaluable, that life is too short to live without passion and connection. This is my story, my truth. I share it not to justify my actions, but to show the complexity of the human heart. Love is messy, unpredictable, and often painful. But it is also what makes life worth living.